Hello, and welcome to the Your Food Matters podcast. I'm Dr. Sue Kleiner. I'm here with my great colleague and friend, Eric Bustillo.
Hola.
and and we are rocking some good weather up here in Seattle, and I know it's always pretty nice in Miami. So for a change, we look dressed for the right weather.
I will say though, today we got a little bit of Seattle weather. We got some
Oh,
rain over here today. But
well, good for you guys because it is gorgeous. We just hit our first 70-degree day, and I think we're going to hit 77 today. So I'm in a sleeveless
nice.
top and happy to get outside after we do this
Yeah,
wonderful
just
recording.
take it in. Just embrace the beautiful weather while you
If
can.
y'all want to know more about us, please listen to our very first podcast. We took some time to tell you about our bios and our backgrounds. And so we are going to go today to the topic of supplements of probiotics versus food and gut health, GI dysbiosis, all kinds of things that then the reasons why you or someone you know may want to supplement with probiotics or not.
Yeah, I'm glad you had the idea to talk about this particular topic, mostly because gut health has become such a it's become a trend. There are companies that come up with these gut health protocols and resets and all the marketing names that you can kind of come up with. Um, but I think that just like some consumers may not know too much, there are also even some professionals that may not know too much about it, from doctors to dietitians and nurses and so on and so forth.
And there's a lot of science coming out as we speak. And so keeping up with it day to day is important. What we're going to talk about today, 2 years ago, probably wasn't much of a topic of conversation. So let's get to it. I always love to start with a story, and I have a really personal story from my family. Number of years ago, I've got two daughters. They're in their 20s now, but probably over 10 years ago, I had a daughter who had taken antibiotics and ended up with a Clostridium difficile infection. You may hear about it as C. diff. It is seen often with certain antibiotics and sometimes long term antibiotic administration. And so she clearly had something pretty bad going on. It takes a number of days to get a stool sample culture result. And in the meantime of those 3 days waiting for that culture to tell us what we needed to do, she was in a lot of pain and a lot of distress. And I got into the scientific literature, did some searches, and found research on a particular probiotic, Saccharomyces boulardii. It is actually a yeast. And there was really good research by a company. I'm going to shout out to them, Floristore. They put their money where their mouth is, and they were treating C. diff infections in people in Africa. And what it does is it tamps down the symptom. It does not treat and, sort of eliminate the infection, but it will kill you with, terrible diarrhea and pain, especially in children when you can't access the proper treatments. And so they had good data. I could get it at the drugstore. I bought it at that time. It was still under patent. It was only the company Floristore started to give it to my daughter, guessing that she had a C. diff infection. And in fact, the symptoms abated within 24 hours. So 48 hours before we had results, before she would have had any treatment, I saw and she felt significant improvements. And so that's an example of a mission driven reason to take a probiotic. And Saccharomyces boulardii, it's a very specific strain that you take. It's off patent now. You can find it by other manufacturers. I I know that the data now supports not just caring for C. diff infection, but also any other antibiotic induced um, poor gut health, and also even traveler's diarrhea. They've got some data on that as well. And so it's a very targeted time, a very targeted use of a probiotic.
Now, thanks for sharing that story. There, for me, it's always interesting to hear patients and clients talk about what they take as far as supplements go. And the number of people that have started taking probiotics is, I'm not going to say overwhelming, but it's actually quite impressive to hear. But I always ask them, why do you take it? And they never particularly know why.
Right?
And I
Someone
always
told
say,
me.
yeah, I heard it on the radio, a podcast, or someone suggested it. Um, and it's always like, we got to be mission driven with it, like you mentioned. There's got to be a specific symptom that we're looking to help manage, and then recognizing which strain someone should take to help out with that in particular. So that story that you just shared is spot on. I think it could be good if maybe we can define that exactly what a probiotic is, because there's so many terms. You hear probiotic, prebiotic, postbiotic, and maybe getting into the nitty gritty of exactly what those are.
It's a great question. And what is in your gut already, sort of the culture that makes up your microbiome, is actually called microbiota. You do not have probiotics in your gut. You have microbiota that are the communal bacteria, yeasts, fungi that already live and make up your microbiome. Probiotics are the strains that you take externally. So they are living microorganisms that you take externally that have been shown to have a health benefit. So the communal organisms that are outside in a supplement that you take, that's called a probiotic. They may not necessarily populate your gut over the long term. They come and go. If it's not an organism that's already part of your microbiota, part of your microbiome, you need to be taking probiotics on a daily basis, or whatever benefit you're getting goes away. Prebiotics basically are the food for your microbiota, or those probiotics that go in that you're supplementing with. So prebiotics typically are indigestible fibers, meaning they come from plant foods. That is 99% of prebiotics. And you need a variety because we have a variety of communities in our gut, and they all eat something different. Just like your kids all don't eat the same, fruits. The microbiota in your gut don't all eat the same thing. And so we need a real variety of food. And then postbiotics. Postbiotics actually are what are probably doing the mother lode of the health function that we're seeing not just in the gut, but all over the body. And that's the metabolites of whether they're probiotics that you take every day or the microbiota that actually live in your gut. It is the metabolites, the results of their digestion and their metabolism. Those compounds interact in the biome, in the gut. They also can travel all over the body. They can travel up the vagus nerve, and so goes from the gut to the brain. There's that access. But it can go everywhere in the body. We know that those metabolites from your gut impact immune function in your gut, but all around your body. It can be your oral cavity, it can be your skin, it can be your heart, it can be your brain, it can be your liver. I mean, all of reproductive function, all over the body. So those are kind of the words: pre and probiotic, prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics, and then the microbiota and the microbiome, which is, of course, the entire environment of whatever place in the body we're talking about, whether it's in the gut, on the skin, etc.
So then, essentially, the microbiome is the environment wherever these bacteria can be found. The microbiota is perhaps would you say it's the actual bacteria that's in our gut or wherever it might be found.
Right, the living organisms that are not human cells, and everyone should know that we have like trillions more microbiota in and on our body than we have human cells. We're actually a walking, um, sort of a transport mechanism for our symbiotic uh, microbiota. We
We're
are
a
not,
petri
we're
dish.
more microbiota than we are human.
Yeah. We're a petri dish, a human petri dish. So then the probiotics are what we'll consume in the form of a supplement or in food.
Right.
The prebiotic is the food for the probiotic, and the postbiotic is almost like the it's like the poop of the
Right, the
microbiome.
poop.
But we need it.
Right. And what we're finding is that is so powerful. The postbiotics, it's also numbers of bacteria. I mean, there are other physical things that the bacteria or the microbiota do themselves because of their presence in the microbiome. However, the postbiotic, these metabolites are so powerful in their actions that now we're doing research and we're growing the probiotic and we are collecting the postbiotic and supplementing with that. And that's kind of a new area of research. It's unknown yet, for each metabolite, does it get digested and not have any impact? Does it get through the digestive tract intact and have an impact? So there's so much new important stuff going on.
And that's such a fascinating world, how new it is. And I always get a kick out of hearing just certain claims made by individuals to take a particular supplement or something like that as if it's going to fix everything. And when they make very strong claims and very convincing claims, but I always think back to myself and I say, even the actual gut health experts, most of the time, and they'll say it too, don't 100% even know what they are talking about, in the sense of, like, it's so young, it's such an early
Right.
field of study,
Right.
that we're trying to just kind of not keep up with it, but just build it and create it. We being the scientific community,
Right,
not me.
right.
Actually, I don't
So,
study it, but
so just a shout out to Dr. Ralph Yeager.
love that guy.
For part of what we're going to talk about today, because he really has given so much information, does a lot of great science and communicating regarding this whole world of sort of postbiotics, probiotics, prebiotics, and particularly the probiotics, and athletes and performance. And so we're going to sort of veer into that, and I just think if you want to really get into the weeds on this, really learn more, especially information about one area that's extremely important, and that is the strain of the probiotic that you supplement. Look for Dr. Ralph Jaeger. It's RALFJAGER. His name is all over this topic, all over the scientific field. So to start with, I said something about strain. That's really important. So you need to know, the genus and the species. Lactobacillus is the genus. The species will be whatever the next name is. Acidophilus is one that everyone knows about. So Lactobacillus, Acidophilus. But if you're looking for a mission-driven reason, what is the reason you're taking this? You must know the strain, and it will be a whole bunch of numbers and letters following those two names, as if genus, species, Lactobacillus acidophilus. Will it be A12.3B1? I'm just making that up, but that's what you'll see, right? And so if it doesn't have that, and you are looking for a specific action, well, then you have no idea what that supplement, what that probiotic will or won't do. It must be very targeted, very specific. Um, and we know, like you were saying, there's sort of established science. We know that you can have targeted probiotic supplementation for digestive health. Even just as I talked about the Saccharomyces boulardii, you need to know what the strain is. You can look that up and know what you're buying will actually have that action for a C. diff infection, for instance. Also for immune support, pretty pretty established science on a number of strains of probiotics. The things that are emerging, Eric, like you were talking about, like people scratch their heads and say, well, maybe we're not really sure. You could try this. Um, Allergies, asthma, mental health, anxiety, depression, weight management, oral health, skin health, anti aging, and then some sports specific things like the gut muscle axis, protein absorption, calcium absorption, iron absorption, all of that, and certainly immune health and gut health in an athlete, which can be a real problem. Those are all right now emerging science. And so, is it the metabolite? Is it the prebiotic? Is it the probiotic? We don't, everyone's trying something different. So what can we talk about that we really know? And it gets frustrating because you want to do something easy. What we know makes a real difference. Sorry, folks, it's food.
Nothing surprising there, but we want the sexy answer, the quick one.
The sexy answer, we can send people to the International Society of Sport Nutrition position stand on probiotics. That's a great resource. Again, Google some of these very specific strains, Google Dr. Yeager, look up some of the science and see where we've got real difference. But like I said, you have to continue to take these day in and day out when you're taking probiotics. They will not change forever your microbiome. What does change that? What does keep a healthy, not just composition of microbiota, but actually the ratio of the healthy ones to the pathogenic ones, which is always the goal, is feeding the healthy microbiota in your gut. And that is from the prebiotics in the major sense. And then, cultured foods, fermented foods, those are kind of like taking supplements. Nothing wrong with that. Really good to take them and to consume that. But we'll get into the specifics about those prebiotics.
Now, I like that you said food is. I'm sorry, everyone, and food is essentially the answer. And oftentimes that's where the conversation goes when folks ask about taking probiotics and whatnot. There are different cases as to why or even when someone would take probiotics. Very specific cases, and you had mentioned quite a few of those in what you were saying. And even from a food standpoint, do you think that there's any significance into how someone takes these things in and how they're consumed, whether in food form or in supplement form, whether it's fasted or the fermented foods and those sorts of things? Any benefit or what the science has shown, at least so far?
So I think with the probiotics where we have really good data, for instance, like I said, this S. boulardii, or there's just so many that really have good data for targeted use. In that case, taking it in supplement form ensures that you're getting the number of cells, of live cells, or sometimes they don't have to be live, It could be, as I said, that what you're actually taking is the metabolite or the postbiotic that you're getting in the quantity that you need, that was shown in research to make a difference. Whereas when you're consuming a food for a very specific purpose, I don't know, are you eating a half a cup or a third of a cup or a quarter of a cup? What's still alive in that food? How long is it past its date? Was it how long is the shelf life for maintaining the number of live active cells? We don't really have that kind of data. They can make a claim of what was in it when it left the factory, but we don't know, maybe if you bought it the day before the sell by date, well, what's still alive in there? Because we know that they can outcompete each other, and the number of live active bacteria will begin to reduce. So I think if you have a very specific targeted treatment that you're pursuing, probably taking the supplement is the better idea. On the other hand, for sort of generalized good health and to enjoy and love what you eat, I love fermented foods. We also get, from things like kimchi and sauerkraut, we get prebiotics with the probiotics, right? That's wonderful. From our dairy foods, we do get delicious cultured foods, and we have such an array of those. And then fermented protein products, right? Not to forget fermented beans, soybeans. Lots of cultures around the world ferment beans, and at the same time, with those, you also get prebiotics, the food that keeps those healthy and alive. So I think there's a benefit to both. It's just, again, what's your mission?
Yeah, because it definitely sounds like there's, like, if we want variety with what we're consuming, right? Variety in our diet to ensure that we are getting these probiotics and the prebiotics and those fiber-containing foods to ensure good culture and all that.
And sometimes the probiotics do the work for us. And so I love to bake.
Yep.
And I am a wild yeast sourdough starter baker. And one of the reasons that I love that is because that long, slow ferment helps digest some of the indigestible portions of grains that are difficult for us to digest, that perhaps might make eating grains difficult for some people. So those long, slow ferments make pro-inflammatory compounds in grains. It deactivates them. It activates anti-inflammatory compounds. So it helps sort of pre-digest some of the compounds that make grains difficult for some people. And so I am a huge advocate of that. Other things that you can do that are also, it's some of it is physical action and some of it is help by probiotics, is just soaking grains or sprouting grains. Those all enhance digestion. And so we know that the grains come full of important prebiotics. And so when you eliminate grains, you eliminate critical food for your microbiota. And so you may not be helping your gut health by eliminating them. You just need to know how to take care of them.
So to anyone listening, take that as great news if you're anything like me, to continue to have your grain foods. Love me my carbs and my grains and my bread, that's for sure.
And so it really makes a huge difference. And then sort of getting down into specifics with food, because this we really can talk about. We know what fibers from what types of foods we need to be eating and maintaining on a daily basis to maintain our gut health. So I kind of have this little spreadsheet that I share with all my coaches and trainers and my clients. And so I start with fruits. What are your favorite fruits?
Oh, if I had to pick one, like gun to my head kind of thing, I really like mango.
Oh man, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that's one of the favorite flavors worldwide?
Mango,
Mango.
understandably so. It's delicious.
Yeah.
And when people are allergic to mango, I have a
Oh.
moment of pity for them, but then I say more for me. More for
Well, so because of the different fibers found in these foods, so when we think of berries, berries have those little teeny seeds, and those little teeny seeds have a type of fiber that aren't found in abundance in a lot of other foods. So I tell my clients, of the fruits that you eat every day, choose at least one serving of berries, then citrus or tropical fruits, there's your mango, one serving of that every day, and one serving of banana or apple with skin or other fruit. So banana, better that it's not super ripe, because when it's super ripe, the fibers have been broken down, right? We know that they're much sweeter. And so when it's not quite as ripe, you get more prebiotic. But it doesn't have to be banana. It's kind of one serving of berries, one serving of citrus or tropical fruit, and one serving of some other kind of fruit. But if you eat banana, a little less ripe, apple with the skin, or, other fruits. So that's in the fruits. Okay, so what's your favorite vegetable?
Gosh, that's a tough one. I don't know if I have one specific favorite vegetable. But again, if I had to go, gun to my head kind of thing, um, and not, I don't know if we're counting them in this particular case, because if it would be potato, if I had to go with that with like a root vegetable. Outside of that, I don't know if I had one in particular that I would say that this is my favorite
Yeah,
actual vegetable.
yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on the root vegetables. Beets, parsnips. Oh my gosh, love them. Well,
Mm-hmm.
so we're going to start with, in vegetables, one serving from the allium family. So that's onions, garlics, leeks, scallions, something within that family every day. And there's so much good data about a whole lot with the allium family. And one area really is decreasing the risk of stomach cancers. But it's also a really, and we don't know if it's the compounds in the vegetables, or if it's actually feeding the microbiota and their metabolites are having that impact. But allium, that's where everyone knows, garlic is going to keep the bad stuff away, including, you know, vampires. But
Yeah, vampires.
one serving from the brassica family. Brassica is broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kohlrabi, and there are more. But if you could have a serving of that every day, and one thing in there, it's high in sulfur, and sulfur containing compounds have impacts sort of epigenetically, but also meaning turning genes on and off, but also uh, the fibers are feeding a multitude of microbiota in your gut. And then another serving of deeply colored vegetables, or a root vegetable. So there's our root vegetables. So we really want that distribution during the day. So I've given you 3 different kinds of fruits, 3 different kinds of vegetables. We are in that USDA 5 to 6 servings, right, of fruit and vegetables a day. I want you to have more, but at least this. Whole grains, at least 3 servings of whole grains a day. It doesn't have to be bread. It doesn't have to be pasta. Eat the whole grain. You cook them all like you cook rice. It's super easy. You can order them online if you can't find them anywhere else. And I love an array of heritage grains, but you can kind of find a couple that work for you. There really are gluten-free grains. Most people know quinoa. There's amaranth. These are actually seeds, but they're categorized as whole grains because of the content, the composition of the nutrients. And there are, certainly oats and barley and more. So look for gluten-free whole grains, and otherwise just eat wonderful grains. If you need wheat-free, there are plenty of wheat-free whole grains. So those are all super important. even when it comes to fats, what would you think of as, fats that have things that are categorized as fats that actually have fiber?
Uh, avocado.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the one.
For sure. And nuts and seeds, right?
Nuts and
So
seeds for sure. Oh yeah, I forgot about
so
those. Yeah.
those are all super important, and even extra virgin olive oil has that's so extra virgin olive oil is one of those compounds. When I said most of them are sort of whole plant, but extra virgin olive oil actually has it's something that's not a fiber necessarily, but does feed the microbiota. It also has oleocanthin, which is a very powerful anti-inflammatory compound. So I know we're going off into the forever land here in talking, but there's so much to talk about. So nuts, seeds, avocado, coconut, olives, all of those are whole foods with great prebiotics and a serving of extra virgin olive oil, not to leave out protein. So protein, we've got our plant proteins, right?
Yeah, yeah. From plant proteins, I mean, do you have a favorite plant protein? Because I don't particularly do too much plant pro. I mean, I have like my beans and whatnot, but like soy and those things, I don't really have much of that.
So probably, yeah. I mean, I'm a big legume lover, and
Mm.
I am so lucky because I have a sister-in-law who has this gorgeous regenerative organic farm in Taos, and she grows beans and dries them. And we go every year and we help with farming, and then she sends us the dried beans. And along with, I bring
Nice.
home amazing garlic, but,
Mm.
not to brag, but you put those two together and holy smokes. So there are some really delicious, gorgeous beans. If you go to your local farmer's market, if you can get to a farmer's market, typically around August, and in the fall, you will see an amazing array of dried beans, and they all are so delicious. They can cook up really creamy and wonderful. And so, getting in your beans, certainly your cultured and fermented dairy products, fermented beans that we talked about, and then, as much meat and fish as you want to eat.
Get those proteins in.
Poultry, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, overall, it's just having a varied diet. Look for as much color as you can. Is one of the main takeaways that I'm getting here. Try to incorporate as much as you can from each food group within a specific like caloric amount and whatnot, but just variety to try to get all of these different
Hugely
probiotics,
important.
prebiotics.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about, I think of variety as the watchword of good nutrition. It's
Hmm.
just, that's it. People say, tell me in one word what I need to do. Variety.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
agree.
Well, we have yacked away.
Very fascinating information and super interesting. I think everyone who hears this is going to grab at least one very beneficial bit of information. So I think it's been great.
Fabulous. Well, I don't know what we'll talk about next week. I think we were thinking about continuing on with this. Maybe we'll get some questions. Who knows? But
Yeah,
we'll be here again
for
talking about
sure.
why your food matters.
We'll see you all on the next one, or you'll see us or hear us. I don't know if we'll see
There
you
you
guys.
go. And please tell your friends if you're enjoying this. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, Eric.
Bye, all.